right from Studio B here at TV3. Welcome to the first ever Media General, Creative Industry and Tourism debate. Now today we're going to be having the New Patriotic Party, lock horns with the National Democratic Congress and also the CPP, that's Convention People's Party. And they're going to be telling us the agenda they have for the creative industry come 2020. Don't forget that this industry is being merged with the tourism ministry as well. So we're going to be hearing first their manifesto because it's in 4 rounds. First off, we'll start with the manifesto, which has just 5 minutes. They run us through the manifesto for the 2020 election. After that, we get the opportunity to ask these participants questions concerning what we think have been the problem and what we think they are likely or they should do come 2020 and beyond. And then after you, the audience here, who are majorly stakeholders of this industry, get the opportunity to question these political party representatives about what you need for your various sectors. Then finally, they get to wrap up and then we'll say bye to you. My name is Ms. G and I've been doing this beautifully with my brother here.
My name is Johnny Hughes, and with 37 days to go to the big election on December 7, the big conversation is beyond the launch of the manifestos. What are in there in the manifesto? We had the 2012 manifestos about the creative industry. We had 2016. Now it's 2020. What will change? What has changed? And how is the industry going to react to it? Because we'll have a Q&A session where industry persons will have a time to quiz the participants in the major debate, the maiden debate that is, on what they have to offer for us. So we'll take a quick break. When we return, we will have the engagement. But first, let's all stand up because we have a wide studio. Then we'll stand up and enjoy the national anthem and observe the national anthem, I must say.
God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong, bold to defend forever the cause of freedom and of right. Fill our hearts with true humility, make us cherish fearless honesty, and help us to resist oppressors, rule with all our will and might forevermore, and help us to resist oppressors, rule with all our will and might forevermore. And might forevermore. And might forevermore.
Thank you very much. Please resume your seats. We'll take a break. When we return, we will know whether we have an industry or not, and the big questions will flow. Stay with us.
Welcome back. This is the maiden edition of the creative industry and tourism debate right here on TV3. Now we have 3 major political parties. I know that's arguable, but they are representing the various political parties to tell us about the plans they have for the creative sector and tourism sector. And in no particular order, let's welcome the representatives of the various parties. Now, can we have these 3 gentlemen come upstage?
I'm sure the gentlemen like you for the applause. So if you put your hands together louder for them, they will just show up. Marco Krekumante representing the NPP, also Sadiq Abubakar Abu representing the NDC, and Comrade Odro Kwatin representing the CPP. One more time, let's hear it for them, ladies and gentlemen. So our guests are here. We will kickstart the conversation. We do know that the CPP, perhaps the oldest of the political parties, before it was disbanded and reformed. The New Patriotic Party has also had their share since 1992, back and forth with the NDC taking the reins of power and reigning for 28 years. But the big conversation out there is how these two political parties have shifted the paradigm within the creative industry and tourism space, and also how the CPP intends to wrestle power from them, and also to change the face of what's there. We've seen the manifestos, but here we are to dissect them, bisect and trisect the manifestos and find out the real detail in them.
So for the first round, we have the manifesto presentation, and of course, the ruling party, which is the New Patriotic Party, would have 5 minutes. So will the NDC spokesperson have 5 minutes, and the CPP spokesperson 5 minutes. We start off with Marco Kwekumante, who belongs to the ruling New Patriotic Party, and he's going to tell us, in summarization, what the NPP manifesto says it has for us beyond 2020. Mark, you have the floor.
Good day. We thank God we are alive. It's a good year. In the next few months, we must make a decision and choose someone who will lead us, especially one who has an interest in what we do as creative people. In the last manifesto that you heard, we said that we want to create some form of hubs, as in financial service hub, mining hub, aviation and logistics hub, petroleum hub, automobile hub, and then the most important one, tourism, hospitality, creative arts, plus digital services hub. I'm saying most important because that's why we're here. So our interest first. So we said we're going to set up large recording studios in Accra, Kumasi, Tamale, Takoradi, as part of the entrepreneurial hubs strategy, in partnership with the private sector for recording artists to have places to record. Some of us in this room who are in that space, I'm sure you appreciate these studios. And then a platform to do the sales of today. I'm saying the sales of today because in my time as a music producer actively, we used to do hard. Today we've gone soft. And so we need to have a platform that is not just for music and film, but anything that is for the creatives could be sold via the platform. I'm sure you all know about the Creative Art Bill and the Creative Art Fund agenda. It can only happen when that bill is passed. And because this morning I had a message from Jubilee, I cannot be explicit on it, but let's be ready for a surprise very soon on this Creative Art Bill. So we're going to get our fund when we get the bill so that we can get monumental stuff done for the art, like shooting a film. I'm sure this will freak the CPP people, a film on Kwame Nkrumah, and then Creative Art Council or government can sponsor when we have that kind of thing. You know, we promised some theaters some years ago. We've touched on some of them, but we are not through with that. And I believe we all agree that governance is a process and not an event. And so it is still ongoing. Trade fair, the traditional trade fair that we know, we said we're going to construct one of the biggest convention and exhibition centers in the world. A few months ago, I was in Madrid for a tourism festival, and I couldn't go around the whole place because it's so huge that you could even park trucks in the building. And I'm sure we as a people, we will love to have such a thing in our country. We'll work with professionals in the industry to also make this part of the world, like Year of Return has done, Beyond the Return, what we want to do. We're going to create a hub that will make, anytime you want to travel, anytime you want to see another country, whether it is for business, whether it's for holidaying, I hear there's even bird tourism. Ghana would come first. I've seen one that is for National House of Cheese. I'm not sure that is very important to us. And so this manifesto isn't as pregnant or heavy as we did in 2016. And it is because some of the things that we promised in 2016 are still ongoing. And so we add this to the ones that we didn't complete in 2016, and I'm sure we'll be fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marco Kwekumante, speaking for the New Patriotic Party. Now we move on to Sadiq Abdullahi Abu, who is a representative of the National Democratic Congress. You have 5 minutes to tell us what you have for the creative and tourism sector.
Good day. The NDC's approach to enabling the creative economy is multidimensional, being that the creative and culture industry is quite vast, and reaches a very bigger constituency as much as possible. Often there's an overfixation or focus on the dominant elements of the creative economy, which is film, music, theater, and then fashion. But it cuts across various different sectors. And so our manifesto promise essentially highlights some of these things, and most importantly, speaks to the aspirations and needs of industry. We've always made a point that our manifesto is the people's manifesto, in the sense that we took into consideration the feedback, the conversations, general conversations in the industry to, as it were, drive what we came out with. So one of the first things we're looking to do, which is very important, is the fact that we're looking to establish a new ministry for creative and digital economy. I'm sure we all can attest to the fact that the creative industry is quite vast and needs a certain harmonizing effect. As it were, and currently, it's together with the Ministry of Tourism. But I'm sure that the industry's feedback has always been that, anyway, the industry's feedback has always been that because tourism has a more structured landscape and has a lot more organizations birthed by laws under the ministry, the creative arts part tends to suffer. So one of the things we're looking to do is promise a new ministry to provide that harmonizing effect. We're also looking to pass the broadcasting bill and create a media development fund. The broadcasting bill has been in the works for some time now. It's become very, very important, and most importantly, a fund to help create and amplify the qualities in the industry to such an extent where the local TV producers can begin to stock or broadcast content from these producers who can access some of these funds to produce quality content for our media platforms has become but very important. Often the complaint from industry has been that there is no more local content on our television channels. The television stations' feedback consistently has been that they are still looking for the numbers of quality to air, as it were. But it would also recognize that all these things comes to funding. So we're looking to establish a broadcasting bill and a media development fund. The thing about the broadcasting bill is that aside from bringing or coming along with the media development fund to help industry produce the quality content that we need, is the fact that there's an element of it that will help enhance copywriting. We're also looking to provide seed money for the creation of a special fund for artists, including aged and the needy creative artists. Often in industry as well, there's been a lot of, every now and then we hear, feedback or comments from the media or announcement from the media on the need to help a particular creative artist who is, out of the limelight and not being able to sort of raise a lot more money to cater for themselves when they fall on bad times. We're looking to establish a fund to be able to, for them to be able to assess on some of these things. Again, we come from the school of thought that you can't enable industry without the thought leadership and the scholarship element of it. And so, as part of it, we're looking to upgrade NAFTI into a fully fledged university for film, theater, art, and music. As it were, a lot of you know that NAFTI, as it stands now, even though it's a university, it still is what you call a semi-autonomous university under University of Ghana. And the scope, in terms of what they teach, is quite limited to film and media broadcast. We're looking to expand the scope to include theater, music, and film, like theater, arts, and then music. But most importantly, and the more reason why it's been captured, if you look into our manifesto, under the big push is that we're looking for it to come with that massive infrastructure development that it needs. So fast forward, all the sound stages, the studios, and all those things that you need to be able to enhance and help to, create or educate the next line of industrial leaders and professionals that is needed today is what is going to come with. We're also looking to facilitate the enrollment of the creative artists onto the informal pension scheme, which is something running consistently across our manifesto. We're also looking to set up a system of a legal aid for creative artists to help fight creative and intellectual theft and plagiarism by others. It's become a major challenge for a lot of creative people to assess the needed legal aid or legal support to enable them pursue some of these infringements on their rights in the court. You would understand that even though the Attorney General's office has a legal aid system, we all should understand that it's been overstretched, and most importantly, there's a certain focus on mainly gender and human rights issues. Now, we are looking to extend that to the creative industry as well. We created the Exim Bank in 2016. Part of the reasons why we created the Exim Bank was to be able to add value to exportable products, which includes creative products. Beyond the likes of Kente, I'm sure we all agree here that music and film today have assumed exportable status. And so part of the plan, or what we had with the Exim Bank, was to be able to avail some of these funds to industry, to enable industry produce the kind of content to be able to, export. You recognize that for lack of funding, if Peter said if you are, for instance, or Kofi Gianni has limited funds to produce a single movie, if you're able to avail such cheap credit to Kofi Gianni, for instance, she could be able to produce a number of movies. So quickly, let me wrap up some of the...
Your time is up,
You've spent your time.
Your 5 minutes.
In the middle, I'll just highlight some of it, but that's fine.
Great, absolutely. Let's go to Comrade Odro Kwating now. What is the CPP's diagnosis of the problem of the industry and tourism, and what do you propose by way of your manifesto?
Yes, good day to all. Let me take this opportunity, first and foremost, to thank TV3. I think for the first time, the Convention People's Party has been recognized. We've had the MPP and NDC duopoly dominating the media landscape. And we created Ghana.
We always recognize you, but it appears you don't have a lot of people to go around. So now that you are out, we will engage you some more.
We have a lot of people.
Great.
Thank you very much. This place was created by us. This very place was created by the CPP government. And we are no novice in the creative arts and tourism industry. Let me first and foremost, secondly, also let me thank the creative arts activists who are here. Because of them that we are here. They do a good job. They create quite a lot of wealth for this country. CPP position is this, that the political elites for 28 years, the MPP and NDC, have become anti-creative arts and tourism. Their policies, they've been talking for 28 years. Very little has happened. And the problem is that this industry is not taken seriously. It's not well resourced. If you take the budget allocation into the Ministry of Tourism and the Creative Arts and Culture, you agree with me that it's both the Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs and this ministry is the lowest that they have the budget. But we all know, and the CPP, we know, that one of the most important industry in the world that creates job that is sustainable is the creative arts and the tourism and the hospitality industry. So we, first and foremost, also know very well that culture drives creative arts. And the first thing that we want to look at quite clearly is basically, as a socialist in ideology, based on Nkrumahism, first, we believe in self-determination and self-reliance. Two, social justice and Pan-Africanism. So our policy on creative arts and tourism is driven basically on the African personality. One of the key things that we want to do is making sure that our culture is very much at the forefront. It becomes an integral part of national development. If you take the National Development Planning Commission, and if you take the medium-term development plan of all the assemblies, culture, creative arts, tourism doesn't appear anywhere. And how can we be able to take this industry seriously? This is the only industry that can create jobs that are sustainable, that improve the quality of life of our people. And both the MPP and the NDC for 28 years abysmally has failed Ghanaians on this. And when I had the chance, when the audience, we're going to add more. So African personality, we want to make sure people know who we are. as Ghanaians, then we have to be proud what our people are. So we want to make sure culture is very much something that, as a driving force. And culture is not static, it's dynamic. And it's not something that we only talk about historically. That we believe that culture is also very much an economic activity. Secondly, we want to preserve the heritage in terms of our cultural heritage. And thirdly, we will make sure, as a CPP government, that every traditional authority will have a museum attached to it to make sure at the local level they are very much in link with the assemblies and local people to promote culture, to develop talents, harness skills, and making sure the creativity of our people are there. When we talk about the creative arts, I think a lot of emphasis by both parties has been on performing arts and all that. The visual arts is something that is missing in all this. That's where a lot of creativity and a lot of economic activity need to take place. The third thing is also making sure that we invest about 2.5% of GDP reserved specifically for this particular industry. So we are not just going to have policies, wait for the Ghana government budget, which doesn't mean anything, but a policy, clearly, that 2% of the total recurrent budget will be reserved or ring-fenced specifically for creative arts and tourism. We are the first party to do this. Also, we want to invest in the film industry. We know that the Film Act or the film law was being created. Now we have a film authority. What does it do? What is the resources for it? But we want to be able to make sure that we invest and create film villages and studios across the country. We also want to make sure that we will review the current culture policy that we have. We have a culture policy that was created under President Kufuor, and which is very, very static. It has no link into our national curriculum. Our schools don't have any cultural activities. When we're growing up, culture is part of the curriculum. We are doing moral and religious education. What is our history? What is our culture? We need to imbibe in our young people, that being a Ghanaian and being African is something that you should be proud of. People should not be putting United States bandana, here and there. We want them to be able to make sure that they know who they are. We also want to make sure that we will ensure that we will be working directly with the key stakeholders in all that we do by reviewing, the Creative Arts Bill, which, in fact, as we know, has not had a lot of input from the stakeholders. It's in Parliament. My brother, Okreku, is saying that they may be surprised, here and there. The stakeholders are here. You ask them, what are your inputs into that particular bill? We will be involved in that.
Thank you.
And finally,
thank you very
we
much.
want to also ensure that the people of this country actually will be able to get access, to all the tourism sites and our products in terms of our cultural diversity and also the creative arts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Odokwating.
Well, so now we've heard from the MPP, we've heard from the NDC, and we've heard from the CPP. Well, before we go to our round of questions, let's acknowledge the presence of some personalities in our midst. If you do not hear your name, we'll acknowledge you before we are done the session. But I would like to say thank you to President of the Film Producers Association of Ghana, James Abuaji, for joining us. Thank you very much, sir. Put your hands together, please, for him. Now, also lecturer at NAFTI and PRO for GAFTA, George Busumpim. Thank you very much, sir. Acting President of the Musician Union of Ghana, Bessa Simons. Thank you, sir. And celebrated actress, President for Women in Film and Board Member, National Film Authority, Akofa Ejani. Thank you, madam. Veteran broadcaster, actor, and filmmaker, Abeku Sego. Thank you very much, sir. And definitely before we go to our next round, we'll hear from the other dignitaries. And they'll also have the opportunity to question this representative of the three political parties who are represented here.
Welcome back and thank you very much. This is our Made in Creative Industry and Tourism debate happening live from Studio B and also live on TV3. First News, Best in Entertainment is a media general initiative by our entertainment desk, and we have guest Mark Okreku. Mante representing the NPP, Abubakar Sadiq representing the NDC, and also Comrade Odro Kwatin representing the CPP. Before the break, you heard them espouse their manifestos briefly in 5 minutes. Next, we'll move on to our Q&A sessions. But first, Mark, I'll start with you. Your first 5 minutes sounded a bit futuristic for me because you kept telling us what will be done, supposing that if you get 4 more, those were the things you're going to do. Are you able to quickly, in 1 minute or two, point me to what you have done with the 4 years that you have got?
Creative Arts Council. I'm standing here in the name of Creative Arts Council, and it is because the leadership of this government decided to make sure that we're in existence and help the ministry get the bill passed. National Folklore Board has been set up, and registration of all Kente and Adinkra designs is in the progress. Hotel, Catering and Tourism Training Institute, that is HOTCAT, is reopened. Tourism training policy is finalized. We've established a revenue sharing program to inject 5% of tourism revenue into the local communities to encourage them to take ownership of and be invested in their sustainability. Sorry for that. When you read, it's not easy. Marine Drive, I'm sure we inherited Marine Drive. It is ongoing. Kofodia Theatre has received a facelift. Kofodia Kumasi was almost 70% done until I went in. I went in because acoustics wasn't correct. And I am sure this room sounds the way it is sounding because the right things were done. And so that is why we stopped till we get the right contractor to finish for us. These are core from, I didn't touch on things like year of return for tourism or GTA. But in the periphery, as we wait for the bill, we did some things that I think I should touch on, like the year of return I've mentioned. We all know how monumental and the effect. Sadiq agrees with me. He says it all the time that it's one of the greatest things we've seen in the tourism space ever in this country. True or false?
I don't know if you give me the opportunity to rebut on this.
you get the opportunity to rebut.
Okay.
Mark, wrap up for me on,
All right.
on those ones.
I'm sure you all heard about Vis-a-Vis. We took 2 bands to Madrid, gave them 12 performances each, all expenses paid, and they were paid for the performance that they did. We did Zongo Fest for the people who live in Zongo. At least they should own their own festival. That was activated by government under National Commission on Culture. Master classes, which was mentioned by the president in parliament, that in the meantime, as we wait for our bill to be passed, we cannot say that we are not interested in learning. And so in our time, we've seen some great master classes. We just did one about 3 weeks ago. It had some of the top Hollywood stars on it. Last year of return, we saw AJ Johnson with some other celebrities coming to talk to us, directing us. And then we've had some local ones. Sadiq was one of the resources person on one of them to talk about digitization of our works and all. So where Ghana, Eat Ghana campaign also came off, retooling on NAFTI. I understand NAFTI got 40 million investments. I do not know if that is true. It was written for me. Bosompem, say hi.
Who wrote it for you?
It's from Ministry of Education.
Right.
Okay.
Quickly, so now tell me the totality of all these things you have mentioned, how has it made the industry pocket friendly for its practitioners? Because that's the bottom line. Okay,
good. I think that the root of our problem is actually not what most of us think it is. The root of our problem is the foundation of our industry, which is the education. And that is why I do not joke with master classes or the creative art school in Kumasi that is underway. I joined this industry with no training. And Charles Sama told me that this industry will make you feel you are the most powerful person, but it will leave you halfway. It will leave you halfway because the fundamentals are poor And we need the mind. We need to develop the mind to be able to keep this industry running. And so you see that people who have big brains, good thoughts to want to push this industry agenda, you find majority of us who think that it is the opposite. And then they fight the people who think they know the right thing. And so it's a clash, and it's all because most of us do not have our minds developed in the space we are operating in.
Thank you very much. Grateful.
Thank you.
All right, Mark, you know that COVID-19 had a toll on the hospitality industry. I want to find out what specific programs you'll implement to get that sector back on its feet, considering the fact that you told us that you aggressively develop tourist sites to bring them to world-class standards, complete them with the requisite amenities and facilities. How many sites have you developed so far, and when will you make the rest available?
Okay, I am not in a position to give you those details because I do not work directly as the boss of GTA. These things are, if Chief Director is here, that's my former Chief Director. If you're going for some of these things, if you ask me anything creative, it will come to me naturally. But because I do not do the day-to-day of tourism, some of these details, you can only get them from GTA.
But you speak for the sector, for your party, in
Yes.
this very crucial electionary period.
Yes.
So
Yes,
the details must come to you.
No, unfortunately, even today, as I stand here, things are happening. As I stand here, things are happening behind me. And so it is, tell me any of the ministries that you know that has 3 wings. It's only this ministry. So we are very big. And if you want to even understand just creatives alone, creatives is very, very, very big. And so to say that I should cross over and know everything within tourism.
We're not asking you to know everything. I think that's quite stretching it into glittering generalities.
But I'd like to
We're
find
asking
out-
you to tell us 1 or 2 sites that have been giving a facelift per your own manifesto from 2016.
That's what I'm
Are you
saying
able
that-
to share that
that's
with
why
us?
I'm saying
1 or
that-
2.
that's what I'm saying that
Kakum,
this
Mole,
question fits-
Chenku Waterfalls,
this question-
Ebri Gardens.
This question fits a worker of GTA, not
But
a creative arts
Mr.
person.
Krekumante, isn't
Yes.
that an indictment on us then? Because if at a ceremony like this, you're not able to speak to both sectors, then isn't it fair that the sectors be, separated from each other, because one will then not be able to represent the other?
Okay, maybe you do not understand the space you operate in. When I joined, this is my first time joining state governance. And when I joined it, when you sit behind like where you are sitting, it's very easy to assume that, by the fact that by default that you're a worker there, you know everything. You can't know everything. You can only be briefed.
Do we have a solution at hand to try and harmonize the activities of the 3 strong, arms under the ministry to make sure that it works perfectly and smoothly?
Okay. Like I said, it's the only ministry that has 3 wings. And the workforce is very little. Even if you ask my office, how many people, we are only 4. Yeah. And so it should tell you that, and it is so because the bill has not been passed. And you hear industry people say that, they are not legit. So why equip them? And so for a president who believes in the rule of law, says that, okay, wait until you have your law, then you are equipped. So forgive us if we come across as we are not on top of some part of tourism. It is because we are even not fully equipped to start what we are supposed to do.
Let me follow with that question on the bill being passed. Your government is the government of the day. You seem to be in charge of the activities of Parliament. You said that you had some good news before you came here concerning the Creative Art Bill. Is that to say that you are passing it before you leave office or before you regain office?
I'm actually the one in charge. So this one, I can tell you all you need. Passing of a bill, I can stand here and say that yes. But the variables involved are many. And so you can only assume or project. But I can't be verbatim to tell you I'll pass it next week or 2 weeks' time. No.
What seems to be the challenge? You're running Parliament.
Running parliament.
Your government is running parliament.
To some extent, yes, but even my government needs to get some things right before it can pass. The language in parliament is very different from what it comes across to be when you're watching television. So it is more than just we are in power and have it passed or rush it through.
Challenges of lobbying, challenges of
Lobbying,
drafting,
yes, lobbying,
challenges of trying to get a
wedding,
committee to be on the same
yes,
page with you,
yes.
challenges of what? The passing the law and not having an
even
ally to let
cabinet-
those who have a right under the law activate
Even
their
cabinet
rights. What is it?
accepting that they are okay for it to move to parliament isn't easy. At the same time, it can go to cabinet and cabinet will say they are not comfortable with this, it must go back. It goes back, Attorney General is also saying that this is not the way things are supposed to be done because the country is ruled by law. It is not how you feel. So we as industry people could assume or presume that we could do the things the way we want to do it. And that's how we draft the document. But it gets to Attorney General and they'll bring their law.
But your government has taken laws or bills to parliament under a certificate of urgency. I mean, many laws I can mention, the creation of new regions and so many others.
Yeah.
Why is this one lacking behind? What's the pussyfooting for?
It is because it's a specialized area. And so even people who sit at parliament, a lot of them don't understand copyright issues. And so people must do more than some of the other laws to be able to get this passed.
Quickly before we go to the next person, I want to ask you about the $50 million the finance minister said that had been allocated. Million CDs that had been allocated to the sector. I want to know that how much we spent so far, and if you can tell us what we spent on and how much we have left.
Okay. This, again, if you understand this space, you would have known that creative arts people didn't receive the money as in Creative Art Council through us. They received it through a bank. And the bank reports to the Ministry of Finance. And the Ministry of Finance to MBSSI. And so until my boss, Uncle Kenofuyata, decides to speak, I'm not in a position to know how much spent and how much not spent.
Sadiqa, you mentioned that your government has intention to reorganize NAFTI, give it a facelift, and convert it into film, theater, and a music university, fully fledged. But I do know that this government is also in the works. There's a bill in Parliament presently to have Ghana Institute of Journalism, NAFTI, and GIL merged. If you come, would you change it? Would you go ahead with your original plan, or would you factor yours into what is already in the works?
If the bill is passed, I mean, it's a bill. Obviously, in the ways they planned it, the MPP planned it, it didn't factor in the infrastructural development that's going to come with, But as it were, and from checks, it doesn't look like the bill will be passed before the end of this current parliament. And so that's more reason why it's on our books. But in our case, we are not looking to just pass the bill. Often here, what successive governments have done relative to expanding or upgrading universities is get a bill, and then that's it. Just like it happened to GIG. But in our case, we've emphasized the infrastructure development it's going to come with. NAFTI Studio has been there for a while right now. It's become very important for us to be able to establish all the necessary sound stages, studios, and all of the things that is relevant to train young students or people looking to have a career in the creative industry today. And so if they pass it, obviously it's the bill, but because they didn't factor in the infrastructure element of it, that's one of the things that we'll be able to do. But we are aware that this may not be passed by the end of this parliament.
You're sounding pessimistic.
Yes. I mean, I'm sounding pessimistic also because of how this particular government has approached issues relative to the sector, particularly the laws that give industry a certain sense of structure. I mean, it's been one excuse after one excuse after one excuse. Today, as we stand here, 2 months to the end of their reign, I mean, we're hearing that the Creative Arts Bill, which was promised for us from the beginning of their, their reign, their tenure till now, is yet to be passed. And if you understand the workings of Parliament, Cabinet approved it when Parliament was on recess, apparently. It's been taken to Parliament. When it goes to Parliament, it has to go to the committee. The committee must do their deliberations. It goes back to the plenary. When it goes to the plenary, there's the usual deliberations and all of those things. I mean, it doesn't look like this government has been committed from the beginning to ensure that this bill has been passed, which, I mean, essentially has made the works of Mark and Co. very difficult because they lack the legitimacy to be able to pursue some of the things that they are supposed to do.
You're talking about creative and digital economy.
Yeah.
It does appear that in this country, when we have a problem, we just create another entity and throw it at it, or throw money at another problem and create a bigger problem. That's the word on the streets. That why don't you work with the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative as that we already have, and you're deciding to create a ministry entirely on its own digital economy? Where do you get money? That's creating new chief director, new this, new V8, new everything. Really?
Well,
Is that
you
what
know-
you plan to do?
Well, you need to recognize that if there's one party that has sought to elevate the creative industry within governance circles or the policy space, it's always been the NDC. I mean, starting with the adding of the industry, the creative arts sector to the tourism sector. But again, like I said to you, there's a reason why we call our manifesto the People's Manifesto, because it speaks to the aspirations and needs of industry. The general feedback from industry has always been that even when it's been attached, there's been some bit of a tussle. Like I said to you, understandably, the tourism sector has a certain sense of space, has a certain sense of structure. There are relevant laws, relevant agencies, GTDC, GTA. So it's easier to be able to pursue all your KPI or achieve your KPIs within that particular sector. There's been that part of problem with regards to this, but we all recognize that creative arts anchors tourism. It provides that needed content for tourism. In our case, trying to take it off is also a suggestion from industry to put it together. But you also recognize that creative and digital economy have a certain connection, which is that they are all IP driven. You recognize that today, you can't talk about the commerce of creative industry without the digital economy part of it, at least the soft element part of the digital economy part of it. It's important that a state needs to be able to take a step in ensuring that you increase the digital infrastructure. Already, NDC in the previous government made massive investment by laying the fiber optic cable from here to Boko to ensure that provide that necessary enabling environment for the telcos to expand. This is something that we've been able to do. On the back of this, we're looking to ensure that there's a whole new paradigm shift. Today, when you look at creative products and in the ways that it's distributed, you can't distribute it without digital economy. It's become the center, the nerve center of the commerce of creative industry. So what essentially we're looking to do is not only to drive the mind shift or elevate the discourse one more time within the policy space, but most importantly, recognizing what has become relevant and important today.
You have become very critical of the NPP, saying that they have more ministers than the results that you can count.
Yes.
If you are looking to create a new ministry, and yet on the other hand, you say you will reduce the number of ministers that you would have, how do we juxtapose the two? There's a fine line in between.
Okay,
Draw
so-
it for us.
Well, in our case, one of the things we've made is not necessarily, we've also always made in terms of the number of new irrelevant ministries that have been added. I mean, for instance, railways had always been part of transport because, of course, it's indeed transport. You've yanked it off. Aviation, which was also part of transport because, in fact, it's indeed transport, has been yanked off. And when you look at some of these new ministries that has been created, have about 4 or 5 different ministers, which balloons the expense on the taxpayer. So what we're looking to do is to be able to harmonize all these ministries that have a certain connection together, and most importantly, reduce the number of the ministers in the ways
So
that
tell
the
me,
NPP
how
has
many
done.
ministries are you going to put together, compound, to create this creative arts and digital economy ministry? Chieftaincy and culture, religious affairs. How many ministries are you going to put
So
together?
in this particular case, we are looking to have a separate tourism ministry, and then most importantly, have a ministry of creative and digital economy.
Is
most
that not
importantly,
duplicity?
you cannot
The
speak.
duplicity that you're talking about.
It's not.
Is that not the same
Creative
thing?
and culture, digital economy, it's essentially connected and is one. But as much as it provides the content for tourism, it's also totally different from tourism. But like I said to you, we are coming from a background where it's become very difficult to really take a massive step and really enable the space in the ways that it should. I've had views that says that, look, rather than create a new ministry, empower or ensure that the creative industry bill is passed, for instance, so that you can have the creative arts agency to be able to pursue these things. But we recognize that policy conversations are different. Executing agencies are also different. There is a need for you to elevate it within the policy space. It's very, very, very important because the creative industry, it's so powerful. Look, when you look at the National Education Authority's the top 10 professions as captured in the new NIA card, for instance, the top out of the top 10, 2 of the top 10 is creative industry. It's become very powerful. And if you look at it, as much as it is creative industry professions, it's been captured under different economies. So fashion, for instance, and the Fashion and Dress like Makers Association of Ghana, who are supposed to be under the creative industry so they can be, we can enable them as it, in the ways it should be, is captured under trade ministry, for instance. So one of the things this will do is able to bring a certain harmonizing effect to all these spaces, also because you're going to have people that understand how these spaces are enabled to be able to run it so that you can do what's necessary to elevate the creative industry in Ghana.
Now, first on your manifesto list is to aggressively promote Ghana as a preferred tourist destination through mass media, new media, and Ghana's mission abroad. You all seem to be very enthused about the Year of Return and all that he did for music and tourism. Mark referred to that as well.
I was not enthused about Year of Return, but I have a view. Okay, so there's an interesting thing about Year of Return, and I need to dismantle this, which has become very important. So the MPP is, like my presidential candidate says, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, is very good at sloganeering and creating amplification events for things that already exist. So what did Year of Return do? You can ask Mark. The Year of Return Secretariat, if you ask them, is yet to tell any of us if they funded any of the creative arts activities that are called the Year of Return. You know, all of these things are events and activities that existed even the Year of Return. You will also recognize that December has always been a holiday makers period in Ghana. In Ghana, there's often talk in December about summer in back room because December has always been a holiday makers period. So you create another slogan. There's an existing December mad rush to Ghana, and then you amplify it and say you've done it. Meanwhile, you've never made any single investment in all the activities. Look, Rapaholic has been happening for 8 years now. In Ghana, Afrochella has been happening 3 years prior to, Year of Return. Mr. Easy's concert has been happening before Year of Return. The only activity that came in 2019, Afro Nation, was meant to come in 2018 anyway. So the state is yet to, they've not funded a single of all these creative arts activities. So sometimes I'm yet to hear from them to really understand the net effect of Year of Return on the creative industry. You know, they keep throwing all these things out, and it's important to note that the Year of Return Secretariat has not funded any of all these creative arts activities that anchored Year of Return in Ghana. So really and truly, there's a difference to it, and what we seek to do is also totally different.
So you think that it was of no relevance to tourism and the creative industry?
Well, in terms of the marketing effect, I mean, it's important. Government in government has always had a certain marketing approach to marketing the tourism potentials of the country. Manifesto had been our creation. It's been driving it till the NPP came to power. Between 2000 to 2008, when they left, they allowed Manifesto to rot, for instance. But Manifesto had always given us that resonating effect. But in terms of, in our case, Manifesto was not approached with just a marketing spin to it. There was an active involvement and investment by the state in all the activities that happened during Manifesto. That is different with this. In our case, you are not seeking to promote. You're seeking to get the state on all its arms from here right into the diaspora to be actively involved and most importantly, invest in it. Look, I told you about the Exim Bank, for instance, and one of the things that we created the Exim Bank for. In the past 4 years, the funds that it's in the Exim Bank, which we created and was supposed to be used to amplify and bring all this attention to all of these things, has been used for a lot more non-core Exim Bank activities,
the government promised, in fact, had announced a 10 million stimulus package from the Exim Bank for the creative arts. I'm sure you do know that.
No, so you see, that's the point that I make to you about MPP in particular. I mean, they are.
But you do know that the money has been released, has it not?
I mean, Mark is here. I mean, we can ask. Let's find out. The industry people is here. Let's find out one single agency, individual, or anybody that was able to assess that particular money the NPP announced with the Exim Bank. Let's find out. It's not happening. And so for us, because we have a history of taking active steps to enable the creative industry, look, go back. All the laws that give industry a certain level of structure came from the NDC.
Finally, to you, you're announcing and promising that you'll pass the broadcasting bill.
Yes.
It's been under your nose.
Yes.
You and the NPP have been in for 28 years. Where from this sudden awakening that you have, because you've had your days, you didn't pass it. And we do know how it works in Parliament. You take it to Parliament, you dilly-dally, first reading, second reading. If you don't pass it, it goes, it starts all over again. And that's the kwani you've been playing with the industry.
Today, it's become very important to be able to pass the broadcasting bill. Important also in the fact that there is a need. Like I said to you, you recognize that creative industry assuming a certain level of importance within policy space was, as a matter of fact, quite recent. You recognize that creative industry assuming that political movement, or starting as a political movement, started with the 2008 formation of the Creative Arts for Change, for instance. Then we took it a step further by adding it to the ministry. So this is one of the reasons why we wanted to create the ministry, for instance, because it's flip-flop and suffered also because once tourism had taken a lead and has a more structured landscape, it's become very difficult to be able to enable it. So today, there's a much more understanding of the scope of the creative industry. Most importantly, there's a much more understanding, insight, and experience regarding how we can really enable the creative industry. So for us, one of the things we want to be able to do with the broadcasting bill, which is supposed to come with the Media Development Fund, was just one policy to be able to impact various different connected industries as much as possible. I cited to you how it's become very difficult to
We'll come back to you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's go to Comrade Otoro Kwate, Ms. J.
All right, Comrade, in your presentation, I kept hearing you talk about culture, culture, culture. Yes, we know that culture is what we are or who we are, but I seem to find a disconnect between the generation that you're about to lead and the generation that you are used to. And I want to find out from you how you intend to bring a connect with your culture, because you made reference to social media and a lot of things which do not seem to tally with the culture that you are projecting, because it's not like us.
Thank you very much. I think before I answer, let me make this point quite clearly. We could see the presentation between NDC and PP, the confusion and the mumbo jumbo they have done for 28 years. There is, and this is a very serious statement I'm making. In fact, this industry, the creative arts industry and tourism and hospitality, is not a priority of them. You could see my brother, Okrekukumante, is sweating, even the air conditioning is not enough. He's doing very well to hold, Everything that he said, the Creative Arts Council existed before the MPP came in 2017. All the thin hot cut renovation is there. What else has the NPP done on the creative arts industry? Everything has been a promise building. Now they're going to bring some kind of a school to train, which is good. It's all talk. The fact of the matter is that these governments, NPP and NDC, they should put their money where their mouths are. If you look at the percentage of government budget in the recurring budget that goes into the creative arts, tourism, and hospitality, it's abysmal. It's very low, small, infinitesimal. And that has been running for 28 years. And that is why, a vote for the MPP and NDC is a waste of time. You have to vote for the CPP. Now, when we talk about culture, our creative arts, tourism, and hospitality must be driven by our culture. And that's why we believe in African personality. We are saying that culture is not static, it's dynamic. So what we need to do is basically making our young generation to know who they are. So we build on that, use our culture, which is our comparative advantage in terms of our festival, in terms of the things that we do. So it is not something that is cut in the past. Culture is not only being preserving, culture is also very dynamic. And it has a political, economic angle to it. Culture creates money. As I checked last 2 years on UNESCO website, culture, the creative arts, brought in $100 billion. How much is it that come to Ghana? So we are not talking culture in a static point. We are talking about culture, using our culture, arts and culture, as an economic regeneration tool, as an economic tool to transform the lives of our people, improve the quality of life.
I was wondering how we are merging that with the digitization that we find, or in digital world that we find ourselves in, because a lot of the young ones are used to what is digital, and you seem to be talking about culture, and you seem to be rubbishing the digital world that we find ourselves in.
I'm not. When I say culture is dynamic, it means that it has to be relevant to the digital world that we live in. There are so many things. For instance, and one of the things that the NPP government has done, looking at the folklore, signed an MOU with the, MTN recently, to be able to digitize our wedding crest symbols, here and there. So in terms of our culture, it's very much, consistently with the digital world. There are a lot of things that we do. For instance, if we talk about culture, we only talk about performing arts. Performing arts, we also talk about visual arts. These are all things that we could be digitalized, part of the modern technology that we have. But the most important thing is that culture, arts and culture, must be an economic tool to drive, our economic agenda. And one of the things that we want to emphasize, CPP want to emphasize, is that the creative arts and the tourism industry, should not be seen as an add-on, as an afterthought. That it should fit into our national development plan. It should be part of our national development agenda. And that a lot of resources, and that's why we are going to set aside 2% of the total GDP for the creative arts and tourism when we take power.
You said 2.5% actually.
Sorry.
So it's not 2%. You said 2.5%
I
of
said
your
2%.
GDP. Yes, 2.5%.
2% has a slip of tongue.
Well, I wrote it down, 2.5%.
2%
So now it's 2%.
No.
Clarity's sake.
Well, a slip of tongue, but it's 2%.
All right, okay. So now the issues of culture, once culture is mentioned, sometimes people think of it as mundane. How does your government, the CPP government, intend to make it spectacular, backed by this whole concept of digitization, so people can see Kwekwa Nancy and appreciate it much as they would see Tom and Jerry? What's your plan?
I mean, our plan is very, very simple. I mean, we have the industry players here. Where we talk about culture, it has to fit into the whole concept about the arts, but focusing maybe performing arts. So part of our music is digitalized. The performing arts in terms of the music, the song, the creation here and there. So our culture it cannot be mundane, which is basically driving, if you like, the performance, but also the visual arts, which actually you look in terms of our culture, in terms of our folklore, symbols, and the activities that we do. So that is where it is important that the culture policy of this country, which was created by President Kufuor in 2004, need to be reviewed. And it must have a link into our national curriculum. In fact, when you go to our school, we don't teach culture anymore. We don't do that. We are rather doing moral and religious education. What is that? We need to make people to know who they are and be proud of who they are. So a CPP government under Ivor Kwabena Green Street will make sure that we review our culture policy linked to the national educational curriculum from the basic school right down to the university. When I went to university, everybody do odontology. Whether you are doing medicine or not, you have to do something about arts and culture. It's no longer that. So it is not something that is mundane, and that is why it is mundane, because our young people cannot relate to that. As your colleague says, there's a disconnect. But it has to be able to be part of the curriculum education. Work with the Ghana Education Service and the expert, within the industry, we will be able to do that so that culture becomes more dynamic. And culture brings money. And culture will improve the quality of life of our people and make us what we are. And let me say, finally,
right,
we have the opportunity in a lifetime. And Nkrumah talks about Africa must unite. And we're talking about we must trade among ourselves. Today, the African Free Trade Agreement, is here. And that Ghana have got the opportunity to host it in the State Secretariat. Yes, and it was because the Sergeant Dr. Kwame Nkrumah created it. NPP are claiming that they brought it. But the fact of the matter is that this is a golden opportunity for us to make sure that the creative arts industry and the tourism and the hospitality is ready. It is well-resourced. Government put money into it to make sure that we take advantage of this opportunity to be able to make money to improve the quality of life of our people.
You mentioned that you are going to see to a review of the Creative Arts Bill. What areas of review are we looking at? Maybe top two areas of review.
Let me say this, that prior to 2017, there was a Creative Arts Bill which has gone through quite a number of extensive consultation. The new NPP
it's important to add that was an NDC initiative.
And NPP came, and they just, the two parties, that's what they do. One finishes, they come in, and everything that the previous government have done, they throw it away. Here and there. And that is why, voting for them is a wasted vote. Vote for CPP. That's, people of Ghana, listen to me. Vote for CPP. These people, 28 years. They have performed very abysmally.
But since 1992, you have not shown strongly on the electoral roll. Sport ballots and rejected ballots have made more impact than you.
Can I answer the question that you asked first?
Right. Because you went there, that's why I'm going there. But respond to my question now. What areas of review are you looking at in the Creative Arts Bill?
The point I'm trying to make is that we are going to be able to have a Creative Arts Bill which is going to be reviewed. It will have a consultation extensively with the key stakeholders. One of the key stakeholders that we have, what do you call it? what do you call it, civil society organizations that represent the creative arts, which must be the culture forum. It reflects all the diversity, of the creative art. The creative art is a big beast. It's a multifaceted, domain here and there. So what we are going to do basically is to, as was done, under the NDC in 2015 with the Film Act, extensively being done in consultation with the key players. What we have now is that a few group of individuals have just concocted something to us.
I'm asking, that doesn't answer my question. You're talking methodology. I am asking specific areas of review. Are you going to review the structure? What is it? What are you going to change?
Review the administration and the governance system that drives the creative arts at the moment. At the moment, it appears that the creative arts industry is becoming like a government industry. The creative arts, the government is just lead on it and is driven by the private sector. So we need to be able to make sure our creative arts law will be such that the government will just lead on it, driven by the private sector, and making sure the industry players are given not enabling environment, are given the kind of investment that they need to be able to expand and create job opportunities. We're also going to make sure that we're going to have tax waivers, tax incentives, for the creative arts, players, SMEs, and so on and so forth. So these are the areas that we are going to review for the first time. And also we will have, in the creative bill, a standing budget alone, dedicated, to the creative arts, for the first time. So these are areas that we're going to do. And let me say that we have done it before. The CPP have done it before. We are going to do it again. And I've compared Green Street. Come 2027 December, we are going to take this country up and run it better than the confused MPP NDC.
Are you the minister in waiting?
Well, I'm prepared to serve my country anytime. When I'm given opportunity.
I'd like to ask you a very quick one before we take a break. You seem to know a lot about the sector, but I'd like to ask you if you have data. How many people do you think are in employment in film, in music, and the creative art sector in general? And how many jobs are you likely to create, and how are you going to do this?
One of the challenges that we have in this country is not only this industry, it's about data. Data has been our challenge everywhere. So I can get you the figures. Maybe
you said it's a challenge. So how do you get the figures?
I mean, what I'm saying is that we have at the top of my head. I cannot give you specific areas.
So you do not have data for a sector you're planning for.
We have data, but I'm saying I can't. For not to be able to quote wrong data, I need to be able to make reference to. We have data. For instance, I can give example in terms of the employment that the hospitality industry created. The past 2-3 years, is run.
What's on paper or what's on ground?
What's on the ground? I mean, it creates direct employment for maybe half a million for the past 4 or 5 years. And indirect employment, we're running into millions. Some of them are basically temporary, but these are real statistics that we have. Of course, COVID-19 has made foolish of all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mark, my question is, before you start a new campaign, you should have done a full audit to know how much you spent and know whether you did the right spend, whether you invested in the right corners before you zoom into another campaign. Year of return ended, it's been applauded, but we've rolled over into beyond the return. Number one, tell us how much, if you know, were to spend for year of return.
Again, Kwesi Agyemang, not me.
You speak for the sector on behalf of government.
I think you got it wrong. That's why I'm saying that I don't want to go explicit. Leave it there.
But you're the spokesperson of your party.
I was called to come and talk about creative arts.
In your capacity as what? In your capacity as what?
Again, you remember when that's why I said I wanted to answer a question you asked, and there's no data on this industry. And the data collection is ongoing. In my sector, what I do, I can give you all the answers verbatim. But if you ask me questions about, even if you ask the minister right now about some of the things happening in GTA, she must consult Kwesi Agyemang before she can get the data you are asking for. That's what I'm saying, that it looks like there's a miscommunication somewhere.
I want to understand you.
Yeah.
The government is happy to trumpet the successes of the year of return, but the government communicators or communicators for the party's manifesto are unable to tell us, even though it's been put in your manifesto. Is that the suggestion I'm getting from you?
The things you are asking for are things that are it's like a manager. A manager thinks strategic, but you're asking for tactical information. Tactical.
I don't get you.
Yes, you're asking for tactical information, deal with the day-to-day people, and the strategic things are broader. So I have a rough idea over how that's why I can tell you your return did well based on the information given to me. But if you ask me for details, how many workers do you have at GTA? I can't answer.
I am not asking you that.
Correct.
I am saying that the government, your government,
sure,
the Akufo-Addo-led government, is happy to tout the achievements of the Year of Return Festival, which put Ghana on the map. Are you able to tell us that we spent?
Yes, the data is online.
Okay.
You can check.
Is it?
Yes.
The report is online?
Yes, the data
Which of
is
the
online.
websites?
Just Google.
But you should be able to give us the details if it's online. That means it's accessible to all of us.
That's but I can't read everything in my head and work with it.
It means that what Sadiq said should be considered, that it didn't make any impact at all for the sector where you speak for.
Okay, I think you can choose to give it a spin based on the lens you wear. But these are things that I wasn't even in town when Year of Return happened. When I came back, the report that we got, almost everybody, that's why I said, even Sadiq, who is supposed to be anti, even mentioned that he's seen the results. Today, let me come to my creative art space with the same Year of Return. Today, you see artists featuring some top Hollywood stars. Do you know where the roots is from? Some of these collaborations that you see and hear around are from Year of Return Connections.
We hear you on that. We
Sure.
say if you talk
So
about the
it
taste
looks
of
like
the jollof,
when you
you
go to
should
this
be able
side-
to tell us how much the rice, the tomato, the salmon, the beef, the wele cost to cook the jollof.
Johnny,
Correct?
Johnny,
Correct?
I listen to you.
Correct?
When you get to this side, you ask creative art questions. When you come to me, you talk to me on tourism.
No, I
do
asked
not
Sadiq
work-
questions.
So you're not
do
you're not
not work-
happy about the questions.
I asked
I do not
Sadiq
work-
questions on Year of Return. That's
no,
tourism
I do not
related.
work under GTA directly. That's why I'm saying that maybe you should have spoken to who called me, because you don't know how I got here.
That's a safe alibi. Good.
No, it is not.
So now do your rebuttal. You wanted to ask questions about the employment.
respond.
No,
Okay.
yes. the
I
responsible.
said that data collection is one of the things we are doing now. And we are doing this because we do not have data on the industry. And it happened because people get arrested for even shooting a movie somewhere. And we are called. And it will call so create before you can release the person. And you get to know that it's because he doesn't have anything to identify him or her that he or she belongs to this industry. So it is ongoing. Again, it's a process. But I am sure that at a point in time, we'll be able to tell you how many. And that is why my former chief director doesn't have the data.
Can I correct this impression?
There's a data.
We have what we call tourism satellite account in tourism. It gives us information in terms of arrivals, how much they have spent. That information is available. Ghana Tourism Authority or Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture is there. If we look at performing arts, you go to National Theatre, the National Commission on Culture, Commission of National Center for National Culture in all over the country, they have figures in terms of the number of people who have passed through their doors, the work that they have done. This data is there. I mean, it is not in his field, so he wouldn't know. So those information, she wanted me to give specific figures, and I said I cannot do that at the top of my head. I can provide that information to you later on.
Okay,
But you said that data was a challenge.
Well, I'm saying the challenge across the whole, but
Right.
some section of the creative arts industry have that data. You can go to National Theatre, they give you the information. You go to National Commission on Culture, one of the major institutions in terms of our creative arts, National Commission on Culture. You go and see. Yeah, sometimes they're light off. They don't have electricity. It's poorly funded.
Johnny.
Our challenge is about the fact that government do not put resources into this creative arts and tourism area.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank
Now,
you very
Johnny,
much. Sadiq,
on
Sadiq,
data.
is that data?
Yes, on data. So there is a 950,564 people, professionals, which I cited from the NIA registration. So like I
records,
said to
right.
you, it would only take a very serious government that is committed at enabling the creative arts sector to mine some of these data to understand and have a scope of the industry. Like I said to you, consistently.
But give the
he
MPP
keeps making
credit
the point.
for at least collating that data you're referencing now.
That's fine,
from
but
the
you see,
exercise of the
they
NIA.
collected the data. They collected the data by just doing the NIA. But we have mined that particular data because we are very, very intentional about the things we want to be able to do to enable the creative arts industry. This is pushing to 1 million. It gives you a scope and understanding of the creative arts industry. Like I said to you, our plan in the People's Manifesto for the creative industry is connected to our overarching plan in the manifesto to create more jobs. We're looking to create about 250,000 jobs in the country. A part of it will be for creative arts. And that's more reason why.
What percentage? Because your flag bearer says 250 jobs per year times 4 years will be 1 million jobs.
Yes.
So what percentage of the 250,000 jobs are we going to get for creative arts?
Safely, from what we are looking to do, we can say that we can, year on year, create nearly about 70,000 of this.
Okay.
70,000 of it. Also dependent on the numbers that we have. Mind you, there are other things that we're looking to do to enable us, uptake people into the industry. When you look at our national apprenticeship program, for instance, when we put out the survey, a number of the people that are looking to join that particular program and as it were, be paid for them to learn, a number of them are looking to enter into the creative profession. So the creative profession is vast. We are aware that the Fashion and Dressmakers Association of Ghana, for instance, have more than 50,000 members. So it's very big. Consistently, there's a certain focus on overfixation on film, music, and fashion. Of course, these are the dominant or the most profound elements of the creative industry. But it includes fashion.
Okay.
It includes all of these people. And for which reason, for you to be able to do these things and bring in that harmonizing effect, that is the more reason why we prescribe the ministry, for instance, so they can take the lead on these things.
Mark, 1 minute if I give you, would you do a quick rebuttal, maybe something Sadiq said that you'd want clarity as a question? Sadiq, I'll give you 1 minute as well, and Mr. Drokrat 1 minute.
No question, please.
You said that you provide seed money for the creation of a special fund for artists, including the aged and the needy creative artists. Is that true?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So how much seed money are you looking at providing for the special fund, including that's for the aged and the needy creative, so that we can hold you to it should you assume power 2021?
The parameters is being drawn. The parameters to a large extent will inform how much seed money we'll put in for this.
It means that you do not know yet, but you have made suggestions that you
We
want
are certain that
you provide how much?
No, we are certain that it's important that we have such a thing. But most importantly, like I said to you, when you come into government,
That's
you've got to
very vague,
develop.
Sadiq.
It's not vague because you've got to develop the
We
parameters.
cannot
It's
hold
very
you to
important.
it. It's just like the NDC telling us that they would pursue.
There are a
and
number
the
of
NPP
things.
telling us they will
Yeah,
pursue.
but there are a number of things that would, to a large extent, determine the numbers. Numbers is
You
not
just told
static.
us that you have the numbers. They are hitting the million
numbers.
or so.
No, okay. We have the numbers relative to how many people are employed within the sector, and most importantly, I threw out a number in terms of how much of the 250,000 people we're looking to provide employment for every year that will come from the creative sector as part of our overarching plan to create jobs for Ghanaians. But with regards to exactly how much seed money, the parameters would to a large extent determine how much you put down for the fund that would go to, as it will be made available to aged, the needy aged and creative artists.
Promote local patronage of various creative products. How would you do that?
Okay, so I indicated to you that we created the Exim Bank. Part of what, again, it's sounding like a broken record also because the MPP hasn't done much with regards to it. But part of what the Exim Bank was supposed to do, like I indicated, was to add value to exportable product, which includes creative product. Kente is a creative product. But most importantly, today, music and film have assumed creative exportable status. So you saw Shelley Fifon's Mansour's movie on Netflix. A number of the people that will watch it from here and into the diaspora, that's export. Music. Our music stars put their music on YouTube, on Spotify, and all of those things. That's export that has happened right there. So part of what we are looking to do, we are not looking to necessarily create the platforms because it's mainly privately driven and very expensive to be able to do. We are looking to make available this cheap credit for the likes of. So Shelley Fimpong Mansour last year produced a single movie. If you're able to make available some cheap credit to Shelley Fimpong Mansour, again, it could enable her to produce about 3 or 4 movies. If she employed a camera operator for one time within the year, if you give her chief credit, she can employ the same camera operator 3 times within the year. So like I said to you, this is connected to our overarching plan to creating sustainable jobs for different sectors, including the creative economy.
What I want to say is this quite clearly. The challenge that faces the creative arts industry and tourism and hospitality is basically lack of funding. Lack of investment.
We are right on that then.
No, lack of. For 28 years, you had opportunity. They created structures. They will create.
We created the Exim Bank for you.
Yeah, but the Exim Bank, they are here. They will talk. The fact of
We
the matter,
created it. Lost
Can
power.
I
Sadiq,
say-
allow him.
the fact of the matter is that, I mean, if you look at the budget, in terms of how it is shared, I mean, today I think the finance minister have read the first quarter budget for 2021, and so on and so forth. What is in there for tourism, creative arts here and there? It is infinitesimal. And all of them, they've done that. They will talk about creating this structure, they can create structure, the governance aspect here and there. What we need is that they should put their money where their mouths are. The policy space must be backed by investment.
Okay.
We need to invest in our film industry. We need to invest in our performing arts. We need to invest in our visual arts. We need to be able to build the capacity for the people who make us, happy by watching the films, by their songs. The creativity is there. It is not government business, to be able to capture these creative arts. It is the actors, the actresses. We are talking about the stakeholders who should be running the creative arts.
But the state needs to enable it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sure we can put our heads together for all three participants. Come on, let's do it for them. They've done really, really well. This is a maiden creative industry and tourism debate here, Ms. G. I'm having fun. I don't know about you.
Well, we'll see if the stakeholders who are in studio to ask questions have had fun after the break. Welcome back from the break. This is the maiden edition of the Creative Industry and Tourism Debate. It's time to hear from the stakeholders. They are seated, ready to ask questions specific to their various associations. So we're going to hand over the microphone, in no particular order, to association presidents and all the stakeholders of the various associations available or with us here in studio.
My name is George Bosompim. I'm from GAFTA, the Ghana Academy of Film and Television Arts. You sold the Ghana Film Industry Corporation. So why should I trust you that when you come back, you fix it? That's the first thing. I haven't finished. I'm giving you all your NDC questions when I finish.
I want to do it one at a time, if you mind.
Okay.
If you don't mind. So you recognize that the sale of the Ghana Film Corporation was a strategic sale to a private group that was intended to bring in a certain level of a needed investment at the time. And you recognize that in terms of the investment that they brought, it's brought a lot more value to the film television space. Take a look at TV3. Take a look at how TV3 has taken the lead in a group that employs nearly 1,000 people in the country. The Ghana Film Corporation at the time didn't have that capacity to be able to employ such people. But look at the investment the private group brought into it, emboldened it, enhanced it, and then now we have TV3, we have radio stations and everything coming to it. The net effect of this particular strategic sale and investment was that it brought a certain level of value to industry that cannot be denied through TV3 and the Media Journal Group.
Okay. I think it's a brilliant answer. The Creative Arts University, you are still looking at putting it in place.
Yes.
You had the thought of it in 2008. NDC had a thought of it in 2008.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, I'm telling you.
Okay.
And in 2009, they started working on it. Then they stopped, waited until June. June 2016, when they're about to go.
Yes.
They brought you went to cabinet to bring a paper to say, yeah, we are going to do this kind of thing. Why do you always want to wait until that last minute before you do this kind of things? 8 years to just take a decision like that. It applies the same way to the Film Act, which you waited until November.
Yes.
That year when you have already been defeated, and signed it for us, and left out that bit where we have to get even funding for the National Film Authority. So today, the National Film Authority hasn't got any legal thing backing for funding.
It's part of it accompanies the law. It has to
Where is
needs
it?
to be operationalized.
It's not there.
It needs to be operationalized.
And
if
I'm saying
we were
that
empowered, would have operationalized.
it has
But
to be
I
in
can
the
speak to you
law,
about
but it's
that.
not in the
Okay,
law.
Mr.
You recognize that when I was providing you the premise or the background for having to create the new Ministry for Creative and Digital Economy, I gave you an industrial feedback that informed this particular decision, which is consistent with the point that you made that because it's sat with this particular two organizations, it's easier to pursue the KPIs in a more structured landscape as tourism. And so you recognize that some of these delays came with those challenges that we had. But most importantly, you recognize that our promise with the expanding NAFTA, and the more reason why it's captured under the big push, it's also because necessitated on the fact that in terms of providing social development infrastructure, we recognize that providing some for education, particularly for professional education and for an important industry as the creative industry, is but very important. If you take a look at our recent history where we spent $6 billion establishing infrastructure within a 4-year window, on the basis of that, when we tell you that we can establish a social development infrastructure relative to an industry such as the creative arts industry, we've done it before and we can do so.
You came into power, there was a Creative Arts Council, you dismantled it, created your own creative arts. Then all of a sudden, they said, well, let's go. It took us a year for us to even, as stakeholders, meet about the creative arts thing. Where is it and how is it like? Because the people from our constituency have not even seen it. I'm talking about the full people. We've not even seen what it is that you are going to give us a kind of a surprise on. So I want you to talk to that one. And then the cultural policy. We started reviewing it. It got stuck. What have we got? What has got into the cultural policy? Last one, who is the filmmaker? That goes to all the three of you.
We inherited a draft that was given to us. I hear you said that the council was established and then we came to dissolve it and started afresh or something. It wasn't like that. I'm saying it wasn't like that because at least we should have known where we were going as an office. But we didn't even know where to start from. There was, and that's what I said a few weeks ago, and I had issues with the minister, former minister of Fuswejare. The transition stage, the people in the ministry told us that they have things to tell us on tourism, but they don't have much to say on creative arts because they don't have enough. They didn't even change the work, they didn't add to the workforce, nothing. They just added a name, creative arts. And then some 1 million went to the culture forum, yes, and Musica. And that was it. So we inherited some open air that were just moving to and fro, looking for an office. And that's why you even said that we started operating a year after, 2018, thereabout. Correct. So if we had a place, if there was something in place, how come we were struggling to exist? So there was nothing. It's not like it's deliberate that when governments go, new governments come and they just want to change everything and start afresh. No. So we inherited a draft, which is the Creative Arts Bill draft. Of course, we engaged stakeholders. And then in one of the meetings, Mr. Kunudake established that they had done some engagement before we came. So there's no need for us to go back and forth with this anymore. We should go ahead with whatever we wanted to do. I don't know if you remember, those of you in this room. So, of course, Attorney General added. It's been back and forth until it came out that why should a government finance a private group called Creative Art Council? That is from the Attorney General viewpoint. That why should you set up an organization called Creative Art Council and then government is the one looking after them, giving them money, knowing that resources are already scarce. And so that is why the agenda changed to, instead of a council, why don't you go to an agency? So the government knows that it is its responsibility to look after this agency. Then the aspect of practitioners owning it will drop. Then we can still maintain a council. Somebody also said that, why don't you get a commission instead? Then you know that, oh, you have some laws supporting what you're doing, but it is not, I hear we are gaming commission, all these other commissions, they have bylaws working for them.
So what did you agree on finally?
As at the last time that I left cabinet, it was an agency.
Come again?
It was an agency.
Okay.
Yeah. And it can be used interchangeably with authority. Again, if I tell you that I've ever heard of a cultural policy, it's a lie.
Who is a filmmaker, he wants to know. You can decline if you...
Oh, I can try. A filmmaker is the one who... A nasty question, pal. In my own understanding, who has the mental picture of putting things together in their mind and want to put all the variables together to actualize into pictures.
Okay. So before I go in on the filmmaker, just quickly, I mean, I think this is our second time Mark is saying that as far as the NDC was concerned, a number of things was not left in the handing over. But it's interesting that in the second read, Mark says that we've inherited. Obviously, the inheriting of the Creative Arts Council draft may have come in the handing over notes. But most importantly, if the MPP, if indeed we didn't leave any handing over notes, I couldn't say they inherited the draft, and most importantly, the law. Because on what basis did they appoint officers for the film authority, for instance? It was on the basis of a law that was passed by the NDC. So this can't be true. There was a very, detailed handing over notes that was made possible. The chief director is here, he can probably confirm on that. In terms of a filmmaker is somebody that directs and produces content or film, or the visual content for TV or for the cinemas.
Mr. Odro-Kwarteng.
Yes. Once again, I mean, the MPP and NDC are fighting over this Creative Arts bill, and that's typical. For 28 years, that's what they've been doing. One end, if we have a new NDC government, you know, what the NPP did, and it's good, they will just throw it away, and then they start again, and that has been a lot. Let me say that the creative arts and tourism, industry has been completely been let down by these two political parties. Culture policy. It's important that I make the culture policy.
Please go ahead, sir.
The culture policy, we have stated quite clearly that we will review it.
All right,
Not only review it to stand alone, it has to be linked into the national curriculum, education curriculum, to make it relevant, in terms of what our education system should be. And also,
You're
the culture
policy. Which
policy.
aspects of that?
Sorry?
Which aspect of that?
We're talking about the basic education to primary education, JHS. There will be a cohort around culture, which pupils will be taught through for them to realize exactly who they are. And also to make sure that people can be trained, in terms of the cultural industry, the cottage industry that will come using the visual arts as one aspect of it. So we will be doing that.
Thank you very much.
But let me also say that I'm not actually, and nobody should be surprised about, the, if you like, insatiable appetite of the MPP and DC of privatizing government businesses. So, but I don't want to go there. They will privatize everything. And I find it very strange that the MPP, which claims to be capitalist, are questioning what is justification for government to give money to the private sector. It's up to you people to. Okay. They are capitalists, and they don't see the need for government to be able to support, and it happens everywhere, support private entity, to give them seed money to do that. And they are capitalists. What they are interested is about social intervention.
All right, that's all time we'll allow.
I am very surprised for a capitalist, a neoliberal, right-wing
James
Sabwaji saying this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Odro-Kwarteng. And now let's go to the president of the Film Producers Association, James Sabwaji.
My name is James Sabwaji, the president of Film Producers Association of Ghana, FIPAG. To CPP, I've been searching online for a copy of the CPP manifesto so that I can update myself, and it is not available. 2, you made mention of the African identity. I was expecting you to expatiate, because currently when I'm walking in the street, especially the women, the Ghanaian women, the African women have lost confidence in themselves. Especially the educated ones, they have bleached. When you got the opportunity to be voted into power, how are you going to instill the African identity into them? Because they are living by the definition of somebody who thinks this is the way Africans should look. If you want to be beautiful, you have to have a permed hair, bleached skin, wig. If you cannot perm, you put on wig, looking like a disappointed European. So I would like you to throw more light on the African identity. Secondly,
Mr. Sabwaji, you're entitled to just a question. I was lenient with you. You seem to be going to the third one, which is the most pertinent among all the questions that you have, so that we can go.
The African identity.
All right. Thank you very much.
Can I respond? Quickly, I mean, our manifesto is there. We try to put it online. Our main website has been hacked. I don't know whether it's done by our political opponents, but we have copies of the manifestos, and Friday, the flag bearer and the leadership will launch it with the Blitz, the media Blitz, Friday, you'll be getting invites to come in. The African personality. And that is why it is important that our culture identity, our culture program linked to school is very important. Historically, slavery, colonialism has completely changed our mindset about who we are. And it's no wonder that people want to bleach. And, please, our women, we love you. When Ghanaian women won't wear wig, when they are even 18 and 19, 20, we need, through our cultural, diversity in terms of training, in school, to instill in them about them to have confidence in who they are. And that is why the culture policy is very, very important to be reviewed. But it has to be linked into the national curriculum so that people will know their history, their culture, that the culture is not only preserving, but it's also dynamic, and that it has an economic aspect into it, that if you take culture as a professional career, it also will bring money, and that it can also improve the quality of life of our people.
Mr. Brokating, if your website has been hacked, it means that your firewalls are weak. Can we trust you?
You can trust. We are investigating. You
are investigating. Sounds like the police.
We are working on it.
We're working at it.
Working on it.
Anyway, Dave, yes.
Yeah. Now, the government is building the Creative Arts High School in Kumasi. For me, it is the greatest intervention that our creative industry has seen so far.
Greatest?
Pardon?
Greatest?
The greatest, yeah, so far. What similar plans do you have to capture young talent, to develop them before they transition into arts university like NAFTI?
Great.
Well, firstly, I think that it's a travesty of justice to say that by establishing just a single school, it's the greatest. The industry is big. Industry needs to be enabled. There's a funding element to industry to be able to power it to create more jobs, as it were. So just citing just a single school and saying for 4 years that nothing has happened in the sector, just that school is the greatest. To the greatest of respect for me. I disagree with that. But most importantly, one of the things in our manifesto, as we stated, is we indicated that we're going to structure the educational curriculum to allow students to appreciate the relevance of culture and creative arts in life and national development. For us, it's important that you are able to, in terms of the uptake of young people, you're able to change mindsets regarding how to view the creative industry generally, by emphasizing on curriculum change that will be able to pick them up from there. But most importantly, like we told you, when you're done with the secondary school, there's a need for you to appreciate that professional education in the ways that it should happen. Without that professional education that enhances your thought leadership and scholarship, as far as creative industry is concerned, you finish with the secondary school without that much training in terms of how things should be done, would have problems. So yes, the MPP is building a secondary school, but for us, we're looking to establish a university of creative art and media. So as it were, drive thought leadership. The biggest problem in the industry has always been the lack of thought leadership and insight. Today, there are a lot of filmmakers, for instance, who do not understand that the distribution lines is blaring. So, today, even if they have the movie and they produce a movie, the CD culture is gone. What happens to it? So there's a need for you, because if you don't create that sustainability element of industry, whatever you do from the ground up, secondary school, it will come to nothing.
Thank you, Sadiq.
Yes.
Well, let's hear from veteran actor and filmmaker Abe Kusego.
Thank you very much. I'm Abe Kusego. I've been described as a veteran actor. Well, my question, I want to find out, in fact, I'm disturbed highly by the seeming lack of seriousness given to the creative arts sector over the years. And I say this because it's like the industry is some kind of area, an afterthought. It's been an afterthought. And one can easily see that. In fact, for now, through the people who are managing the sector has become so partisanly polarized that it's been very difficult for people who do not identify with the government in power to do anything serious or be considered in anything serious.
Okay.
Are we going to move away from that, where party foot soldiers, when their party wins power, become the managers of the sector. And that is why I think that is why the sector is not moving. And that is also an indication of how governments, the seriousness that the governments attach to the industry, because they would not do this in the other sectors.
Uncle Abe, so if I understand you, you're looking for us stopping the culture of job
Stop
for the boys.
Yes.
Okay.
And then quickly,
and how they're going to do that.
And then quickly let us know what the vision of your parties for the industry is. Because looking at your manifestos, all I see are strands of areas. There's no connection, there's no interface of what tourism, the creative arts, culture can be used for in advancing the interest of the country.
Thank you.
I do not think this is entirely true. I'm saying so because if you look at Sadiq, he has not been in any government before. This is the first time he's speaking for NDC. If you look at me, unless of course I come across as job for the boys, but I've been around, I think my CV isn't that bad when it comes to the areas that I operated in. And so parties scan around and they choose their best in some of these areas to lead. Actually, this is the first time someone has campaigned for a party and has been chosen to come and lead in our creative space. I don't know about any Rexoma was a friend to the NDC years ago, Amanzeba, but they were not in governance. They were close to ex-President Rawlings and all. So this thing that you are talking about, maybe today that I'm here with Sadiq and my former boss, chief director, maybe that's why you are saying this. But it is a specialized area. We are here today because we have done some of the things we are doing in the past, and we have gotten the interest of governance.
I mean, it needs to be established that it's also not been entirely true. Part of the problems of industry in the ways that it's not attracted top-level governance circle conversations is our knack as creative people to sit on the fence. Why? Because they say the creative people should not get involved. Uncle Abeku Sego is sitting down here. He went to a proper school, Ghana National College. I mean, incidentally, that's my alma mater as well. From there, he's got a track record of doing amazing stuff. I mean, I know he's jealous, but yes, that's a better school. He has a track record of doing amazingly well in industry. George Wilson Smith as well. But today, George Wilson Smith, for instance, he sits on the fence, who better to enable industry than George Wilson Pym? And that's where we come in. I've had about 16 years experience working across the industry, working variously from here, Africa, and for some global organizations. And I'm involved in politics. There is the need for us to join the ranks of these politicians so we can drive that thought leadership as far as industry is concerned. You can't leave it for them. So we work hard in crafting a very, very good, promises for our sector. And we come to power and they say, well, let's fall back on your experience and let's fall back on your insights to be able to drive it. Why not? It's important that the creative industry professionals do get involved and drive that which is very important.
So what? If you don't have a party card, you don't come to the table, you're not invited to the party?
Well, it's not entirely, like I said.
That's the indication I'm getting from you.
I mean, it's, for instance, like I said, it's very good. If you look at it, there are a lot of professionals that have gotten involved one way or the other. I don't think it took a party card, for instance, for Ejifa Gomashi to be appointed as the Deputy Minister in charge of Creative Arts.
I think one of the response to Uncle Abeku's question is basically, he says, lack of seriousness given to the creative arts industry, partisan polarized. Let me take this opportunity to thank TV3 for making today happen, because you don't know what you've done for the people of this country, for bringing this debate. And we've been saying it time and time again, that our political elite in the MPP and DC, they don't take this industry seriously. And voting for them, you are wasting your time. The reality is this.
Message is MPP.
The reality is this, that it is time for MPP and DC to realize that the industry is led by government, but driven by the private sector. So what you need to do is basically make the resources available, the logistics, for the practitioners to be able to develop the sector. And not get, faffing around with, their political interference here and there. We need to be able to let them realize that tourism, hospitality, creative arts must be government-led but driven by the private sector. And I'm surprised, a party like MPP, they say they are capitalists, they are neoliberals, what's the business of doing business here and there? They haven't been able to do that, The NDC to say social democrats, they come and faffing around here and there. Vote for the CPP because we are socialists. What we want to do is the question about what the vision for the creative arts. We have a vision for the creative arts.
Thank you.
And our vision is very clear. And our vision is that we will put down 2% of our GDP, to invest in all the facets of the creative art industry.
Thank you, Mr. Odro-Kwatin. Now, let's have celebrated actress, president for Women in Film and member of the board for National Film Authority, Madam Akofa Ejani, ask her question.
Well, thank you. Mine is not really a question per se. It's going to be a contribution to all three of you. So whoever wants to take it and add it to what they want to do, I think it will benefit all of us. Kwame Nkrumah did say that there's a new African and that the African was going to be capable of handling their own affairs. In my opinion, after all these years, I don't think that we are truly independent at all. But that's my opinion. We are still mentally enslaved. Look around everywhere. So I think that we have to go back to the basics, start with our children. From the 4-year-olds, the way they wanted to do with the comprehensive sex thing, that is what we should do from the 4-year-olds so that we get a broad base of an understanding and appreciative audience or consumers of the arts. So we take it from the children, bring back the cultural studies in a more comprehensive way so that that new African, that dream of our founders for Ghana will be materialized. Because even now, if I ask you now, what is the Ghanaian identity or the African identity, most of us can't even answer that right. So we need to go back to the children. I'll quickly read these quotes that our elders it's written by our elders. I'll just read it and then you can add it. It says that whoever does not inform his children of his grandfathers, then he has destroyed his children, marred his descendants, and injured his children the day he dies. Whoever does not make use of his ancestry, then he has muddied his reason. Whoever is not concerned with his descent, then he has lost his mind. Whoever neglects his origin, then his stupidity has become critical. Whoever does not cause his ancestry to become abundant, then his incompetence has become great. And the last one says, whoever does not increase his place of descent, then he has abolished his honor.
Nice one.
So,
nice one.
Food
Thank
for
you.
thought for you.
Thank you very much. Madam Akofa.
Can I have a go quickly?
Okay. Sorry.
Because you talked about the issue of Nkrumah in New Africa in the culture studies. Madam Akofa, well celebrated, respected. We wish we can count on you. You vote for the CPP because we are the only party that we are talking about reviewing the culture policy and linking into our education system.
You're not the only one.
So, no, you don't. Unless we start looking at that from the kindergarten right down to the university, we are going nowhere. The creative industry is going to still suffer.
Thank you very much.
But finally, one of the key ingredients in all this is to make sure that we lead by examples, not only from the schools, but also from the home, that as role models, we are there to help the young ones to be able to move on in their lives.
Okay. First, before I go on for Akofa's submission, I think that it's important that whilst we are here, we need to highlight and amplify the fact that Akofa is the only woman here, and for a long time she's been a very strong female advocate for women in the creative. So for somebody representing a party and a presidential candidate, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who is particular about amplifying women to such an extent that he had too many female ministers at the ministry, it's important that we point that out, amplify and continue to encourage her because she's done so well to industry as a woman. So it's important that we amplify the fact that she's here so that it can encourage a lot more women to be advocates for industry.
Thank you, Sadiq. And we move to, yes, let's put our hands together for Akofa Ejani.
My name is Mr. Simons, and I want to say that if you have traveled around a bit, you will see that no country will allow any country's culture to come and swallow or overtake your culture. And in Ghana, it looks like things that we should have done about 30 years ago, we haven't done it. So any country can come in, either Jamaica, America, Nigeria, they just come and they try to overtake our culture like that. So I'm going to talk about how we're going to protect our cultural heritage. And to do this, there should be some resources. The investment will have to be big. Other than that, very soon, our grandchildren will come and they will all be speaking patois. And that is not good at all. And like what Akwafa said, it will be a shame. We would have done a very big disservice to our country. So my question to you is that, how is your party going to be able to invest more? More is the emphasis here, more into the creative arts industry. And when the investment comes, the funds should be released. How are you going to do that? And this goes to the three members, three panel.
If we get this bill passed, by default, you have creative arts fund in there. So a percentage, which has not been agreed yet, a percentage will be coming from people who use the creative contents. And then government will also support with some funds. Then every year there's something, when they go and read the budget, my uncle in the white shirt, if he's still the finance minister, will tell us what is added to the fund. And then, because, when the monies come from people who use creatives, even if it's a little, because of the aggregate, the number of people who are going to use it, the aggregate will be relatively good. And then we can use it to do a lot of our developmental projects. So when this bill gets passed, I'm sure the water will settle itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he's asking about cultural dominance.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that we police our space so that not everybody just comes in and infiltrates and takes over and makes ours look like we don't have anything?
If you've been listening to some of my comments over time, you'll get to know that I'm actually a cultural person as well. Creative people have the capabilities of always changing the narratives when it comes to culture. Most of the things that you find around us and our behavior actually came from the creative people. It is subtle. The filmmakers especially, the things they show us on TV. I grew up on Osofo Dazi. And so sometimes when I speak, I might come across as old school. And it's because at the tail end, Osofo will come and give some advice. And it works on me as a kid. Today, capitalism has changed the direction of television. A lot of people would want to do something that will bring the cash fast. And so we don't think about the space. In Germany, I've said this several times, that governments put money into film and television, and the agenda is that they want to make sure they control what people see. And so if government has this fund, whilst the other people who have decided that they will do some of the movies just for the monies, government can also support with the creative art fund some of the films that will mold the national mind, so that the bigger picture, we all know where we are going as a people.
We need to find the cultural policy back together.
So
I agree.
Find it, yes, we'll find it. When we finish, we'll look up for it. Yeah.
So for us in NDC, I'm glad that all of these things is coming up, because, like I said to you,
And Mark is
our promises,
is a cultural man, but he has not seen the cultural
our policy speaks to the aspirations and needs of industry, like he cited. Now, I would go, unlike the CPP man who goes vaguely on about it, we have a specific promise for it. A few things. Now, before I go to that particular specific things, we've always maintained that we're going to structure the educational curriculum to allow students to appreciate the relevance of culture and creative arts in life and national development. We also intend to promote district, regional, and national competitions in the creators among the youth in tertiary education. But most importantly, you recognize that the medium through which some of these things infiltrate in our country is the media. And that is why it's become very important that we pass or pursue the passing of the broadcasting bill. Part or element of what the broadcasting bill we intend to use to do is to drive a content policy for Ghana. Now, it is also the more reason why we've created the Video Development Fund to come with it. The more reason why it's come with it is that you recognize on our television stations, it's not commercially viable to produce children's content, for instance. In our time when we had By the Fireside, it was empowered by the 31st Development Women's Movement. But today, the private organizations do not necessarily provide that full funding element for children or kids content or for certain content that would empower and drive our cultural identity as much as possible. So one of the things that Media Development Fund seeks to do is that in the absence of the commercial funds to be able to do so, we intend to make that available to the television stations and the producers. You asked about how. We are looking at independent producers and television stations that are partnering that would apply for this content to be able to produce this needed content for this particular platform. Because when you push, say, 80-20 content policy or 70-30 content policy, and you don't have the much needed quality content for these television stations or these media platforms, it would fall.
You see, what happens in most countries is that if you don't resource your cultural heritage, what happens is that people will come in, before you know, they will bring in money and their music will be playing on the air. And the youngsters, the future leaders, will now start going that way. And when they go that way, only 5 of them will succeed. And you have so many musicians loosen up. They think they can all do the same thing and make money. It won't work. But if you resource those who are doing your indigenous music, then they will know that we don't have to go and look for that money. We'll be pushed. Then you flood the market with your local.
Obviously, it will be considered in terms of caucus, but I'm sure you will agree that a broadcasting bill to specify the content.
You don't need to respond to everything. Thank you, Sadiq. Mr. Rukwati.
Can I thank
yes, sir.
Mr. Simon for his contribution. He says no country will allow foreign country to take over their culture. How do you protect your culture heritage? And my brother Sadiq is saying that we are talking about vague things here and there. Unless we address the issue about our culture, reviewing our culture, unless we look in terms of what we mean by culture, who are we as Ghanaians? And fundamentally, this is one of the areas that we need to be looking at. And even if I say that government must invest, we are the only party who says we put 2% of our GDP.
Is it your opinion that our cultural, you've mentioned this over and over again, it looks like your answer to every question, but is it your opinion that our cultural boundary or borders are so porous that other cultures can just infiltrate?
I mean, you look at the Indians in our television speaking tree and all this, caricaturing, it's all this. I mean, it's very painful. These telenovelas here and then, Marco Kreku is talking about the private sector because, now in Germany, government can put money into film industry here and there. We can do it here. We should be investing into that money. So we need to be looking quite clearly how we protect our cultural heritage, preserve it, and also develop it in becoming a part of our national development agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Samuel Kofi Ajimai, National Treasurer for Musicians Union of Ghana. Uncle Okrekumanti, in your presentation, when you started, you made mention of you establishing studios, recording studios across the country, if I'm right. I just want to ask whether is it important at this stage, because we have a lot of recording studios. I know some are not very good, but we have most of them that are doing very well, and we are quite okay with their sound quality. So is it that what that we need at this time? And then to all of you, I remember in those days we have producers, and you have been a producer before. If I say producer, I'm not talking about producer as in those who are producing in sound.
Producer.
Yeah, but executive producers, especially in the music industry. And I don't realize some of them they diverted because the system was changing. Some even diverted in selling mobile phones and stuff like that because of the CD that was fading in the system. Now that we are getting into the digital era, what are you doing to encourage people to come in? Me, I'm a producer, I'm an engineer. I've produced so many music, I don't hear them even on the air because they couldn't even advertise the music. So what are we doing to help people, to encourage people to come into the industry to be production houses so that they can also take care of musicians who are coming?
It's very easy to say our sound standard is correct. You need to do some sound tourism, travel and explore, and you'll be able to tell. Don't be listening to just what you hear in Ghana. Compare to some of the international sounds that are making it number ones and number two, and in your own audio speakers. I'm sure you'll come back to me with the answers. Music, film are all international products, and so you don't produce them with your mind that there's nothing wrong with producing that you want to just sell in Ghana. Well, we have evolved because of internet. It's easy to make more money through internet. So why don't you want to sell international? Our standard of sound that we're producing now, gradually we've allowed the Nigerians to do better in sound than us. We used to be the masters, but now gradually they've seen the light and we are where we are. I think we need Studio One. Studio is also a form of tourism or a tool for tourism. People travel across the world just to record. Teddy Riley says he recorded No Diggity in Trinidad, but he lives in America. And so it's a way of making money for the country, foreign exchange. Ghana Films, I'm sure I was a little boy when Ghana Films was active, but I'm sure foreign people, I saw Omar Epps came to Ghana years ago. He was big. I recorded my first job in Ghana Films, Mr. Kwachi. Good. So it's a foreign exchange material. At the same time, you get your product that will be easy for you to compete.
Thank you very much. Sadiq?
So in terms of us, we also equally agree that studios are very important. We only have a different approach. We come from the teaching studios perspective, and the more reason why it's become important to upgrade NAFTA and bring in that necessary investment to it. Because look, the Ghana Films, when the studio existed, you recognize that it also served as a funnel to train a number of fantastic sound engineers. You mentioned Mr. Kwachi, who went on to impact industries relative to the other industries. So that's the more reason why we are looking to have it within the bigger new National University of NAFTA, so that it becomes a funnel to as it were, train the next batch of industrial professionals or leaders who would then go to these studios that exist anyway to empower all these productions. That's become very important. Okay. Generally, our party has made a promise to give some tax rebates to SMEs or startups to enable them take back or hold back some of the investment that ordinarily had gone to tax to be able to reinvest back into their business, which is something that is crippling them. Most importantly as well, we've consistently been making the point that you need to be able to provide cheap credit to these people. A number of funds, I've mentioned the Media Development Fund. Again, back to the Exim Bank. Like I said, I've mentioned Shalifi Farmers from Peter Sodifia and Co. It's because we have a view and a mind on it to say that you need to be able to make these funds available to these production houses to enable them to produce. I mean, the frequency of production definitely will create sustainable jobs for the people, which again connects back to our overarching plan to create more wealth and, as it were, more jobs for the country.
You and I know that the informal sector who are going to be enjoying some of these tax holidays, which the NPP said is set up the NAPCO Revenue Ghana to be able to handle. We do know that only 27% of us takes care of more than 73% of us. So I'm asking you, you have a fantastic plan. What is your monitoring regime to ensure that it works?
For those people that are looking to get these tax holidays, for instance, you've got to apply to be on the system to the Registrar General Department. You've got to do that. Without that, how do we avail these tax holidays to you anyway?
Very briefly, I think my area I want to look at, we have committed ourselves to invest in the film industry. Earlier on, my brother asked a question, who is a film producer?
Who is a filmmaker?
A filmmaker. I mean, one of the problem that's happened is that in fact, the marketing and distributing of our films, even Ghana films, are being run by Nigerians, and they are controlling it, here and there. How do we strengthen the copyright, body, GAMRO, and all that? The CPP government is committed to do that. I mean, how do we protect intellectual property? And these are key. I mean, the music, in the films, none of them, they are not serious. I mean, we have a copyright institution, organizations, GAMRO, go and see. They have no resources to do their work. We will resource them. We will invest in them. We will protect intellectual property. So that when people like Michael Kiko and others, how do we do that? How do we do that? That we will find the money and give them the logistics to be able to do that, to set up systems to monitor and evaluate. They ask you how you want to monitor and evaluate. You couldn't answer, so allow me to do that. That's what they've been doing for 28 years. We have had enough of you. So please allow us. The CPP, where we take over from 8 December 2020, we are going to change the face of the creative arts industry. We are going to make sure the copyright institutions and organizations will protect property, intellectual property of our people. We will also make sure that people who are producing, these films and their music, here and there, are getting heavy returns from them, not foreigners coming to market and distribute on their behalf.
Thank you.
That's the CPP commitment to the industry. Thank you.
Well noted, Mr. Odrukatin. Now we have the PRO of the Ghana Concert Party also ready to ask a question.
Thank you so much. I was so young when I heard of Ghana Concert Party. The reason why I excluded the CPP was when I heard Ghana Concert Party, it was NDC time. Until now, we are in NPP era. But nothing is happening for Ghana Concert Party. And even we are not hearing them again. I don't know what the parties are putting in place for Ghana Concert Party. And if we can remember, or if we can sit and think about Ghana Concert Party, our filmmaking or the industry is also based on them. But nothing is happening. Thank you. And
Thank
then NAFTI have been here. But what is happening about NAFAC?
You recognize that, the concert party was being organized by the National Theatre. Which obviously is birthed by a particular law in partnership with the television stations. I think that some of these laws, like we've spoken about, and the funds, like the film development fund should be made available. It needs to be highlighted that the NDC, even though George Wilson says was late, passed the film development and classification bill, the film bill. By now, our expectation is that the film authority would have been properly resourced to be able to partner organizations at the National Theatre to be able to pursue some of this, because there's an element of film in there. Most importantly, it was also meant to come with the film fund, which has been a bigger call from industry, so like I said, the NDC has a more multi-dimensional ways of it and intends to float a number of funds with proper sources to be able to enable, empower some of these things.
It's interesting to note that none of the manifestos I've seen so far has anything related to the Ghana Concert Party and its impact is had over the years, like he's indicated.
We have a promise on the National Theatre
That's not the Ghana National.
Because you can't disconnect it. What you need to recognize is that
it's a group on its own.
No, please, with due respect, don't add it.
No, listen.
Concert Party is a group of its own.
Listen to me. What I'm saying is that there is organization. Musica, for instance, is a welfare body for the organization. But our promises, right, goes to enhance or create opportunities for members of Musica to leverage. So if National Theatre, which has taken the lead, established by law, has taken the lead on the concert party, there's not been any organization that has consistently taken a lead on it.
Is that to say that they are an affiliate of the theatre? Is that what you're saying?
They are the lead organization. It's like film.
I don't think so. Is that the case? It says no. That's not the case.
Maybe he doesn't understand. Which organization?
But he's the PRO for.
He's a PRO for the welfare organization. It's like FIPAC. FIPAC exists. But which organization has the mandate to ensure the regularity of the film industry? National Film Authority. So I'm saying to him that there is an organization established by law meant to, or which has in times past taken a lead to advance some of this. Interestingly, these organizations have been
if the National Theatre is not interested in organizing concert party. The National Theatre is not interested in doing weekend gigs at the folks' place where I cut my teeth. The National Theatre is no longer interested in Fun World Kida Fest. What can you do? Because what we've seen in your manifestos doesn't capture these things. And I can tell you a plethora of television personalities, including myself, who were sharpened and honed from the National Theatre through Fun World, Kida Fest, and what he's talking about. So now, can you do an addendum to your manifestos to include this? Because it says they have been treated unfairly. Where is NAFAC?
No, so let me say, okay, I mean, he can speak to NAFAC, but let me speak to this particular thing that I said to you. Their organization is like FIPAC.
We don't doubt that. No. I want to allow you. I want to allow you to explain it away.
I will speak to that. Let me turn it around.
I'm saying that.
I've got your question.
You can even mention the GJA and say that because this existed, they came together to form it. I'm saying that if the National Theatre is no longer interested in organizing concert party, how do they get the platform to showcase what they have?
Let me show you something that we did in past. You see, when you are dealing with problems like this, you need to look at the root cause of the problems and deal with it from that point.
You don't mean the individual. You don't mean the individual.
No. I mean, obviously, you will need them from advocacy perspective. But the root cause of this is that even the organizations, their organizations, if National Theatre is not interested in that and they are interested, it boils down to funding. Either they are going to have a partnership like they did with GTB, sponsored by Keysop. I've made mention to you earlier when I spoke about the Media Development Fund that because these things have become a challenge because of the changing environment of sponsorship, these funds like the Media Development Fund and everything is available for the likes of them to approach because it's a creative arts vehicle. So the root cause of the problem, which is money, is being addressed from the root cause. What's important is how you leverage some of these things. On our own, no government itself on our own can take the organization as National Concert Party thing and then, as it were, take them and run with them. They have their own programs. But the members of these organizations, they as an organization, they can advocate and push for some of these reforms. But individual members of the organization, like the FIPAC, can access some of these funds, cheap credits that's available for them to pursue some of these projects if they want.
Now, Sadiq, it's amazing that you've been going around this because I just saw that in your manifesto you had categorically stated that you want to develop programs to harness talents and potentials in the industry, and you didn't see Ghana Concert Party as one avenue to do that.
I've said to you, no, don't do this.
I'm wondering.
Miji, I'm saying to you that you deal with the root cause of the problem. What is the root cause?
You've written it categorically here that you're going to do so.
Miji, I'm saying to you that the root cause of problems that affects concert party, affects film, affects music, affects media, affects generally the industry. You look at it, a number of other areas. You look at it and say that, okay, we are going to float this particular fund from maybe the National Film Fund side for the film part and the filming element of this. And you're also going to float the Media Development Fund, which is going to come with the broadcasting bill to be able to advance this. Now, the root cause of it, and I'm saying to him, is that previously, the concert party was sponsored by Keysop in partnership with National Theatre and GBC. There's been a challenge with that. We are saying that because of the new content policy that you intend to add to your broadcasting policy, also to come with an accompanying fund to help do some of these productions, these organizations or individuals under these organizations could partner with, say, TV3, because there's a content element that forces or compels TV3 or encourages them to, as it were, provide a certain level of content to local content. So if they deem it fit, then we can look at they coming together to raise this fund from the Media Development Fund to produce it, because the root cause of it is funding. Okay. Yes, which is something that we solved with the funds that is coming.
Okay, Mr. Okrekumate, you want to take a bite?
Sure.
Of that?
I think that it's a marketing problem. I share the pain of Sadiq. If you take just the Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture, we have the museum side, we have folklore, we have culture, Creative Arts Council. The offshoots are many. So if you're putting a manifesto together, it is difficult to talk about particular details one by one and say, oh, concert, this is how we'll do. Oh, Kida Fest, this is what we'll do. It's difficult. So I share their pain. The challenge is that the creative space have suffered from the evolution that ran ahead of us, like the telenovelas we watch today. most of the time, before we see something new has crossed us, and we are behind, and then we chase it. But we are always supposed to be ahead because it's a competitive world. Kwesi Aboagye tried on his own to do a concert party show. Again, the fundamental problem, funds. Have we been able to find out why people are not putting their money into it? Is it because of repetitive content? Is it because the stories are no longer exciting? That's why I say it's a marketing problem that we must all go into and then help find new ways of selling. The reason why TV3 and all these other brands are still relevant, they are not sleeping. They are evolving every day to be able to compete. Okay, NAFAC happened last year in Koforidua. And so, NAFAC,
Ashafa is shaking her head. It means that she's not sure it happened.
Oh, it did?
Okay.
Can I say that the NAFAC that we know doesn't resemble anything that happened in Koforidua. I mean, it has been reduced to a level whereby, but you see, the essence of NAFAC, National Festival of Arts and Culture, it is a very strategic, opportunity for us to be able to build a cohesive country. So all the regions, they have a competition in their very diverse culture, and then they have the omnibus one that they meet together, which over the years, government has been putting money in and funding it. The funding regime on the NAFAC and MPP is nothing to talk about. It happened in Koforidua, and they even say the Koforidua theater is now full complete. You go and see tomorrow. CV3, send your reporters to go and see the Koforidua theater. I said you should go and see Koforidua theater.
Because we know that a lot of people have said that it's not a fully fledged.
It is not finished. But the point of the matter is that NAFAC has been reduced to shambles like Manifesto. And it's all come back to the fact that we need to invest in this creative arts. Talk. MPP, NDC.
Thank you.
Talk too much.
Thank you. We knew it was getting there. NDC, MPP blame. But Mark, did NAFAC...
It's come very usual.
Yeah. Did NAFAC contend with some bit of funding rivalry with Afrima?
No, not at all.
It didn't?
No, not at all.
The chief director seems to have some information on it.
Well... Why shouldn't I?
No, he was a chief director, so he has some information. You need to speak to him. He's a chief.
You were the chief director at the time.
He was a chief director, so he has some information.
Mr. Odro,
no, he wasn't.
He wasn't.
No, he had left.
Okay,
yes.
but the year that Afrima happened, NAFAC didn't happen, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Afrima was 2 years ago.
Right.
Yes, and NAFAC was last year.
And the allegations, the speculations that it could have rivaled NAFAC on the funding level.
Not at all.
Not that you know.
In fact, you hit the head on the head. The reality is that we spent 7 million Ghana cedis for Afrima. Invited people from
7
outside.
million?
7 million. Invited people to come and eat, pay for their hotels and everything. Call it Afrima.
Where did you get that information from?
I'm interested in that information.
The information is available.
Because the minister at the time,
available at the Ministry of Tourism and Arts and Culture. You can get it tomorrow. They've done
7 million.
Yes.
But Sadiq, that's not for you to chew on. I'm saying that Mr. Dokra,
I'm shocked. I'm actually scandalized.
We've been asking the minister around that time, the minister who was in charge at the time, Honorable Catherine Afeku, for this information, and we don't get so. I'm wondering where you got it from.
Kepiski almost 1 million Ghana cedis.
Wow, that's a revelation.
Afrima, I'm giving you information, and the fact of the matter is that if you spend that kind of money in Afrima, inviting people, foreigners come and enjoy, we pay for their hotels here and there. How would you get money to run NAFAC? So it's what they call it opportunity cost.
How much was spent on NAFAC? How much was spent on NAFAC?
We didn't make anything. It was all loss.
What did we get? In fact, their hotel bills were paid. What they ate, everything we paid by Ghana government. When we have a creative industry here, how many of the players were involved in there? I mean, please, Afrima, don't go there.
So what was the intent?
Wow. The intent is to promote, African film and making Ghana as a center, as a hub here and there, the intent here and there. But the key players, who were the film producers here and there, what was their role? The music, what was their role? How was it organized?
Afrima wasn't about film.
It was
about music. Music, what was their role?
No, but I'm actually surprised or scandalized that the former chief director of the tourism
I wasn't the chief director at that time, but I have this information. TV3 can go and check. It's information that is in the public domain. You can go and check. And if you look at the amount of money that we spend on Manifest and spend on NAFAC, and we can spend this money by foreigners, people to come and eat.
Can I come in? Before you come in, it will be unfair to hear Afrima all the negatives and not talk about the other sides of Afrima.
But is it true that we spent 7 million?
I am not too sure
We are
about that.
indebted to Kempinski.
I am not too sure about that.
Then how do we celebrate the positives?
You can check.
So at least let me tell you why Afrima and why we are here. I like your question, the intent. The whole idea was to put spotlight on Ghana, preparing the ground for this day that everybody is discussing Ghana in terms of tourism. And so what do we use? Let's use music. And so these organizers of Afrima had a talk with Minister at the time. And so, sometimes how people narrate with previous events, and so Minister bought into the concept and said, this thing can sell Ghana. Why don't we invest into it?
Adam, quickly, your question.
I've picked 3 things from here.
But only one question was suffice.
Yeah, I've picked 3 things from here. Resources, funds, investment. That is what I've heard from all of you. And you all want to say that resourcing, funding, investing has been a challenge. I know you all have good plans for the creative arts and tourism sector. I want to see how serious you are about this.
Question.
Have you all been able to quantify how much creative economy gives to Ghana or can give to Ghana to determine how much investment before putting together your manifestos? And what are you doing in terms of distribution and marketing channels?
Thank you. We'll take just the first question. Mr. Odrokwati, you take this one. Have you been able to quantify the value that we must put on the what do you call it, the creative industry?
Yeah.
How much is it going to rake in?
Before I answer, I was just checking information on the Afrima cost. I think the 7 million is a bit on the high side. So I think the figure is around 3 million plus instead of 7 million. I need to correct. I was checking the information here.
Say again.
Instead of in fact, the quote of 7 million was on the high side. So
Okay.
I think it's between 3 million. And I know that Kempinski is taking the ministry to court on this because they're still owing. So I need to
Okay.
clarify that.
I hear you.
How do you quantify how much?
Have you quantified?
Have we quantified how much can you? Well, basically, we know, for instance, last year, if you go to UNESCO website, quite clearly, the creative arts made about $100 billion, dollars globally. We know that in Ghana, even the situation that we find ourselves now, the creative arts, contribute positively between the range of between 2% to 3% of the GDP in total, annually. So we think if we invest more.
Can you put a figure to it?
Well, I can't at the top of my head, but we know between 2 to 3% of GDP they contribute from that sector.
Thank you.
But if we invest and expand the work that they do in that sector, I think it can even move it up to 10%.
So you're going to invest 2% to get 2%. Is that what you're saying?
We are going to, yes. We're not going to get 2%. What I'm saying is that the 2% of GDP, if invested in the diverse, cultural, domains of the creative arts, we'll be able to move from the 2 to 3% to 10%.
Okay. So you invest 2, you get 10. That's what you're saying. Great.
Absolutely.
Sadiq.
Yeah. So on the basis of UNOSCA's 2010 source or fact, the contribution of the creative arts to the GDP or to the sector to the GDP is 1.53%. That's a very good point to start with, having a perfect idea. 1.53%, it can be sourced from UNESCO as well. So this plus, yes, 2010. So this plus informs our view, plus some of the things that we hear about the fact that funds are being expended on things that is not directly connected and have a certain strong negative effect to industry, is what informs our view that we can still find the money. Already.
How much if you do all the things
in terms of the NAFTI part, and the infrastructure and all of that, it's been captured under our big push, which has been we've touted for 10 billion. So essentially,
he's talking about the returns. How much, after all the investment, how much are we going to get from it?
No, it needs to be projected. It needs to be projected. As it stands now, we can look at it from the GDP perspective. The exact figure, you'd have to take into consideration the inflationary figures and all of those things.
I was trying to also get some information on the data. I see that I see other countries, I see Nigeria, but Ghana is not in there. You remember years ago, Obo tried to do something like that on music. And we all heard that we were relatively, extremely low, correct, low in contributing. And so as part of the things that we must do moving forward, like the data collection and then all these things, research is money. If you are not given the resources, it is difficult to do some of these researches. And so I am sure when we get the bill passed, some of these monies will come for us to go into some of these things.
I'm making a contribution.
30 seconds, please.
Okay. My contribution is to the film bill. Note that the film bill has challenges because politicians have taken the radio and television industry already, taken the licenses, and that is why they are not passing it. They are not passing it because of these some of the things you mentioned. The content bill they are talking about.
You mean the broadcasting bill or film bill?
The broadcast bill. And the broadcast bill does not fall within our domain. It is communication. So you have to be also particular about that because content committee have been formed by the film authority. It's a good thing, but I'm against it because when they're finished, where do they get a law to back them?
Wrap up for me 1 minute. What do you say in closing?
Okay. I think that 2008, one person decided that he'll give this industry attention. And that has been the taproot of why the creative industry has received attention till now, and that is why we're here. I think that we have scotched the snake, if I want to borrow from Shakespeare, but allow us kill it in the next fall. We've shown the intent is good. Thank you.
Sadiq?
We think that the last 4 years, the creative arts industry or the creative industry has retrogressed. The NPP hasn't shown any commitment and any seriousness to properly and intentionally, enable the creative industry in the ways that we have done. And in fact, we have a proper history of having done specific things, laws, infrastructure, a number of things to actively develop the creative industry. When you look at our plan, it's practical, it speaks to the aspirations and needs of industry. And obviously, when you compare it to us, and between the two serious parties that could win elections, you know that the NDC's manifesto promise for the creative industry is superior, more practicable, and something that speaks to what the industry needs. So on December 7th, please, if you're watching us, vote for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama so that he comes back the second time to enable the creative industry.
Mr. Drokwati.
Yes. Finally, let me give thanks once again to TV3 and also to the industry practitioners, the creative arts experts who are here for making this event very, very successful. We in the CPP, we want to tell the Ghanaians that the NPP and NDC have had 28 years to be able to provide what the creative and the tourism industry needs, and they have failed miserably. Today, what they have exhibited is quite clear. They can't walk the talk, lack of investment. They talk about what they're going to do. We've seen what the MPP said they're going to do up to 2016. They couldn't have not done it. They said we should give them another 4 years. You vote for them, you are wasting your vote. The NDC also had the opportunity to be able to transform the creative arts and tourism industry. They did it. They didn't put resources into it. They have all these ideas. They didn't go into it. The CPP is the only party which is the alternative to two. So we want Ghanaians to know that under Ivor Kwabena Green Street presidency, the CPP government, we will first and foremost review our culture policy, we'll preserve our cultural heritage, we invest in the creative arts, we'll set aside 2% of our GDP to invest in the creative arts, and also to make sure the creative arts becomes the fulcrum of which we build our national economy, and that will improve the quality of life.
Thank you, Mr. Drokwati. I'm grateful for your time. And that's how the cookie crumbles on a very first edition of the Media General's own creative industry and tourism debate. It's been very, very enthralling, revealing. It's only 37 days to the big election. You have heard them talk. You as an industry person and you watching from outside the industry would know what decision to take.
Now, I want to say special thanks to the three representatives, the one from the New Patriotic Party, Marco Kumante, who is the head of the Creative Art Council, and also to Sadiq Abdullahi Abu, who represented the National Democratic Congress, and to the former chief director of the sector, and now representing the Convention People's Party, Comrade Odro Kwating, and to all the stakeholders, including the president of FIPAG, the George Busumpim, who is also PRO for GAFTA, and also the acting president of Music, Bessa Simons, celebrated actress, president for Women in Film, board member for National Film Authority, Akofe Ejani, Abeku Sego, who is a veteran broadcaster, film and veteran actor and filmmaker, Adai Boatin, the PRO for the Ghana Concert Party, Edem Chochome from Spectator, and all the other stakeholders who made time to join us for this debate. From us here at TV3, we continue to be first in news and best in entertainment.
And be on the lookout for other debates from other sectors regarding the manifestos that are presented to you. My name is Johnny Hughes.
My name is Ms. G.
Have a good one.